think I'm live. Let's just have a quick look. Sorry for the 5-minute delay there, everybody. Normally on the ball with that, but just got a little bit distracted then. OBS, for some reason, decided it didn't want to work very well, even though I'd started the preview on it. So I had to reload that and start over again, but all's good. We're here, and that's all that matters. So we have 42 people watching, which is pretty awesome, actually. Nice to see a few people in. 101 Rockhound, Lumberjack, Fantarang, Dave, Matrix, BB Truth, Super Looming Hyena, The Plain Truth, Gently's channel, and more. If I've missed anyone, I do apologise. Right, okay, so a couple of things to discuss. Earlier today we had Quantum Eraser doing his first stream that he actually managed himself on the Quantum Eraser channel. He had quite an audience, actually. I think he had around about 150, maybe a little bit more. So that was a pretty good turnout for his first show. So I wish him all the luck in the world with that channel and how it progresses. Speaking of Quantum Eraser 2, oh, and hi Sven, nice to see you in. And Gerhard, Constance Bruns, Silver Umbrella, X Globe 76, Way BMX. Right, okay, so yeah, he did his show. He had over 150 people watching. It was only an hour's stream, so it was a pretty good launch, I think. But speaking of John and obviously Quantum Eraser, we have an outstanding issue from George Netanyahu, who basically summoned Quantum Eraser to court yesterday. So, Julie, I put that to John before, and he gave a response on Nathan's channel. I'll bring that up in a little bit. Bob the Science Guy, nice to see you in. Lottie says, shout me out, goon. I've shouted you out. Jimbo Con, Logan's Run, Storm Williams, the Adam Meakin. I've just got off the phone to you, my friend, and I will do as you asked, which is hide you on the channel. Nah, not really. Add you as a moderator. Oh, right, okay. George Netanyahu, lay it on us, Ranty. What will QE? Way will QE not appear in court? Well, you know, I mean, I can't answer for him per se, but I can bring some footage up that might explain it. So bear with me. I'm going to play a couple of clips here. Okay, so I want you to pay attention. So this is a bit tongue-in-cheek, by the way. This segment is a bit tongue-in-cheek, so take it for what it is. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but here we go. Here we have George Netanyahu. So, oh, hang on. I need to transition, don't I? I need to transition. What a buffoon that was. Okay, here we go. Here we have George Netanyahu. So George was in my chat yesterday. He came in. He asked for to jump on the panel, and he summons Quantum Eraser to appear in court. So this is George. George is a Glober, as you all know. Anyway, so that's George. Okay, so today, oh no, hang on, let's go back to Quantum Eraser channel. Actually, I'll play this clip again. This is all very tongue-in-cheek, guys, so just bear with me. Let's put the volume up a little bit so that you can all hear this. So this is Quantum Eraser's very well put together, I have to say, by the Adam Meakin. Congratulations to the Adam Meakin there, who put this clip together. So this is his introduction, so here we go. introduction, I have to say. Something that stuck out to me though was this little sentence here. It says the Globe Terminator. So as you can see in the title of this stream right now, we have the Globe Terminator. So John sees himself as the Globe Terminator, and why not? You know, he's been a presence on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel for the past couple of years, I would say. Only recently did his own channel, and you know, he's been one of the main people behind the Flat Earth debate housekeeping questions. So if ever we can rely on anybody, Terminator's frightened of no one, yeah? If ever we can rely on somebody to quash Georgie over here. Where have we got Georgie? Georgie, yeah. But if ever we can rely on anybody to defeat George here, I'm sure we can rely on Quantum Eraser. So George put the challenge out. George wanted to take on the Terminator and summons him to court. So I duly phoned in today on Nathan's show, caught John on there, and if we go over here, I'm going to play perhaps maybe a 10-minute segment of me and Darwin, funnily enough, trying to convince John to take up the challenge. So I'm going to go on mute and I'm going to play this, and I hope you enjoy.
I've been naughty. I like the way you said
naughty.
that. Say that again.
You've been naughty, and you've been summoned to court by George Netanyahu to answer for the crimes of the housekeeping questions.
I toe tagged that moron so many times. Give me a break. He couldn't summon Elmer Fudd.
I have to issue it. You know, it's just one of those things, John.
Listen,
you're gonna have to sit through it, John.
Listen. When Tiger Woods is at the Masters, right, and he's driving on the 18th, and Elmer Fudd is out there in the gallery, right, and he's heckling Tiger, does Tiger pay him any mind? I rest my prosecution rests. Clown.
Are you actually refusing to go to court and have George ask you questions about the housekeeping question?
Yeah, I'm not being questioned by Elmer Fudd, delusional moron. Sorry. You could also,
why not?
You could go to my channel. Hold on, Arwen. Hold your pants on.
Questions of this.
Hold your pants on. You can also go to my channel and see the numerous toe delusional clown.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
But we want to see the interactive, John. Come on, do it.
We do.
Sorry,
we
I got
we
bigger fish to fry. At 2 p.m. today.
Bigger fish.
U.S. Central.
Is there a bigger baller fish you need to fry? Why
2 p.m. U.S. Central. While you friggin' rumpus me. At 2 p.m. UK or 2 p.m. U.S. Central, 8 p.m. UK. My live channel debut today. Thanks. Be there or be sphere.
Moving on.
Maybe you could sit there and then he can ask you about how closed thermoses are open systems.
How could he do that if he says there's a dome
field?
Force field, a dome field.
I don't see why you couldn't join it just for the humor of it.
Because I got bigger fish to fry.
Like what?
That's one reason.
Yeah, but like what?
Yep. Like what? Like my frigging channel. That's why.
Yeah, but that's today, okay? But there's more than just today. I don't think the challenge is necessarily set for today.
Let me see if I can understand this. He's already fried this fish. With
we heard him the first time. You don't need to repeat it for him.
What can I finish?
It's not about frying that fish. It's about doing some interactive stuff.
It's about letting me finish a statement. If you've already fried the fish, why are you going to fry it again?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's only so many times
somebody wanted their fish more well done. That's why.
There's only so many times you need to kill someone. You understand? I mean, really.
Let's just ask Arwen to make. Who wants it fried again?
Randy.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see. Yeah.
No, I
Oh,
think
no.
it'd be good
Ranty
advertising.
likes
for
his
John,
fish
actually.
extra
hold
fried.
on,
right?
hold on. So why does Ranty want this fish fried twice?
I don't know. Content?
Twice.
I'm asking
Hundreds
Ranty.
of times.
Oh, me? You're asking me? I'm passing the message on. George came on the channel last night and specifically called out John to appear in court on my
Perfect.
court.
That's all I need. That's all I need. So
Yeah.
George wants to be fried twice, correct?
Okay.
Oh well, good for George.
But
I
Ranty,
think
you
it'd be
would
great advertising
kind
for
of see
John.
it as interesting, right? To have that on your channel.
How many clips have you got tearing George a new one, Huey?
Me personally,
Yeah, you personally.
on my channel.
Not published or unpublished.
Oh, goodness great. I got a whole clown file on this guy. This is from a long time ago, man. In fact, I was there when he called out Brian Mullen, right? Remember when that crayon muncher came on the channel, delusional fuckwit, came on the channel and he brought up his YouTube channel with all his information in the comment sections. Remember that?
I do.
Well, if you scroll down in that comment section, guess who you're going to find?
You.
Yeah, me. This idiot. Because for one, at the time, I didn't know George all that well. He was on ED, Erectile Dysfunction channel. And I just took offense to him going after Brian Mullen because I knew Brian Mullen was right. And George was calling him all kind of names, right? And I was real nice to George initially. I said, hey, what's up with this? You're both professionals, right? There's an easier way to go about this. But he kept going on and on. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to just slam dunk you right here on your channel. And if you'd like to go, I would suggest to go to that show where he pulled up. Don't ask me the name of it. I'm sure he hasn't deleted the comments. And just watch me tear this knuckleheaded clown to smithereens, step by beautiful step. It's glorious. Go check out the conversation. Steve McClown also chimed in on that thread too. I toe tagged that idiot more times than friggin' Carter has liver pills. But check it out.
Though, where you get to defend the housekeeping questions and put him in his place would be, it'd be good for your channel, good for your reputation.
Okay, well, I'm just going to do some shout outs. Look, don't make me laugh, Fronty. Right. Earth is seriously flat. Another shout out.
Really?
Oh, God. He says, Nathan Oakley, best globe zombie slayer, FU power. Thank you very much, Earth is seriously flat. And again, Earth is seriously flat. He says, Globe possesses zombies, defending pseudoscience. Again, a big shout out to Earth is seriously flat. And Mr. Gadget. He says, N. Oakley is the Gordon Ramsay of FE, but he is wrong. Well, I still appreciate your support. Thank you very much for the super chat, Mr. Gadget.
I agree with Ranty. I think it would do John a lot of good to do this because people want interactive things and not afterward elaborate responses kind of things. People want to see the interaction. People want to see John actually interact directly in a more sensible way. So it may be a challenge to him, but I think it would do him a lot of good to actually do it.
It may be a challenge to me.
Owen?
What are you trying these little
To keep your
second
composure
grade,
and not
second
just
grade,
start
third
yelling.
grade psychological ploys on me? Do you think
Right.
that's going to work?
Anybody else got any blunt
John?
little tools they'd like to try and dissect up John with?
But I mean, would it be fair to just take up every opportunity that someone challenges you with? I mean, that's not really how it's going to work. And you can't expect to, if I'm going to challenge you today and I challenge you tomorrow and challenge you the next day, are you just going to stand up and get challenged every time? Is the line
Everyone wants
Yeah, but that kind
everyone wants a shot at the title.
He was
Oh God,
quiet
here we
for
go
me.
with the rumpusing.
Well, you said title, so that makes sense to me. Followed boxing when I was younger. So when a boxer wants to go up the ranks, he challenges everybody. But when he gets beat, no one is going to waste his time with a boxer that can't hold a fight. So George hasn't held a good fight, so why would you challenge him?
Well, that's a semantic argument, really. I mean, the Globers seem to agree with what he's saying. So
A
it seems
semantic
like a fair
argument.
fight,
Is
really,
there another
putting up our
kind?
best, putting up
Hold on.
our best against their best.
Like, I
How is that
appreciate.
semantic?
Oh,
It
can you
doesn't
stop
sound like
rumpusing
semantics.
Ranty?
It's
Hello,
just giving a reason
hello,
what to do.
hello.
Go ahead.
Can you stop rumpusing Ranty? I know he said semantics. That doesn't mean you've all got to rumpus the shit out of him.
Yeah,
Oh,
you might
yeah,
not
it
agree
does.
with George, but you know, at the end of the day, he keeps showing up. He's even John says he was years ago. He was still doing this battle. Let's see it head to head. Let's see John
I
defend the
don't think so.
housekeeping
Let's get
questions
back to
against
the
him.
semantics argument. Define semantics.
Come on, John.
Hold on, we
You
had a
could
good
actually
analogy
get
already.
him to completely shave his head.
We had a good
Wouldn't you
analogy
want to be
already.
the man to have him do that?
Right, that
I want to
Eubank-
get back to, I don't want to let this go. Semantics. Define that.
No.
please.
Answer no. The challenge is set. The challenge
You
is set
claimed
to
it.
appear in court with John, and
You
you're
claimed it.
declining.
That's all
okay.
right. There's another subject at hand. Mine worked.
Right, so as you can see, I am kind of baiting here. It is a bit tongue in cheek, but essentially you've had your answer, George. Whatever that answer may be, he didn't give. Well, he did actually say essentially he doesn't want to do it, basically. So I have to try a different way. I have to try and convince him somehow that he needs to come on and and challenge you, because I haven't got time to sit around for the next 5 years doing this. I don't want to be here in 5 years doing this. I want to get as many answers as I can as quickly as possible. So if there is a problem with the housekeeping questions, I would like to see what they are. So if John's unwilling to come on and represent the Flat Earth Debate team, or whichever way you choose to call it, with the housekeeping questions, then at least you could perhaps put the issues out, what it is that you specifically have an issue with in regards to the housekeeping questions. I think that's the only way we can move forward, because from what I've seen today, and I think I did speak to him a couple of weeks ago about something similar, which would be the same response. So I got the same response from him then. So I don't think he's going to change his position. He's got a lot on with his new show. I can't answer for him. You can only listen to his response, and his response was basically a no from all accounts. So I did try. Okay, so Trish Blythe, thank you for the super chat. Thank you very much. QE calls people morons and clowns, but won't step up? ? Well, it's still to be decided. I think, who knows? Maybe in a couple of weeks, when he's got his head around his channel, when he's got everything working fine on there, and he's not under as much pressure as he currently is to do his own little thing over there, maybe then he'll come on. Who knows? But in the short term, it certainly doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So anyway, I tried to get him on, and you heard it firsthand. That was on Nathan's channel today. So moving on. Let's get. Don't want that on. So let's get this off, and let's bring over this, because I want to talk about this actually. So the guy that he just mentioned, Mind Warps. Now, you've already seen one introduction today. That was from the Adam Meakin. So this guy does these things for a living. Now, if you've seen my introduction for the round table, Mind Warped was the guy that actually made the introduction for me, and I'm very grateful for him doing that. But I want to play his video anyway, because he'll be coming on the show soon. I think in around about 20 minutes or something like that. And also we've got the Plain Truth coming on. But I want to play this video first, and I'll get the Plain Truth in. We'll have a bit of a chit chat, then we'll bring Mind Warp back, because he's getting. He's going to make his own rockets, basically. And if you followed his work and what he's going to do, how he's going to build them, what kind of equipment he's going to put on, it's something to look forward to. So let's play this video. It's only a 5-minute video, so give you an idea of who Mind Warped is.
Okay, so as I said to you guys, I'm going to build a rocket. So I've gone out and I've bought a whole lot of parts. As you know, I can already make the rocket ingredients, but the general thing is going to be made out of plastic, just for the first prototypes and stuff. So if I angle this down, I will show you what I got. I don't know what size I'm going to do it just yet. I can might make it half size.
Andy?
And then this is going to go on the end here. And then I'm going to shape this and probably put something in there just to help really concentrate that burn without actually fully melting this. I mean, it's only going to be going for 15 seconds. I don't really care if it melts anyway. But, yeah. And the other main reason I'm putting this in is because when I push that on, this second lot here, this is what I'm going to use to make the rocket engine with, this tube. So fill that up. And then obviously have the middle hollowed out, and then once I've got this on, it will actually mean that I can sleeve this down in there, and it will stop, and then I can, you know, somehow fix it in there, even if I have to put like a drill a pop quiver or 2 in there just to hold it in place, or 10 maybe, and then cap it, and then I brought my plastic sheet. You can see it's probably about, what does it say on here, 3mm thick, so that's pretty decent. I wanted something that's going to be strong but not too heavy, so you know, this is heaps. I could probably get two runs out of this if I cut this in half. Obviously I'll have to buy another one of these and another one of the caps, but
Anyway, so that was just a bit from Mind Warped. You can watch the rest of his videos on his channel, so you just need to search Mind Warped. Dead easy. He has a very low subscriber count at the minute. I think it's just over 100. And funnily enough, we've just been joined by Arwin. And Arwin was talking with Mind Warped today about this. Are you there, Arwin?
Yes, hello everyone. I didn't realize you were alive. Just saw you called me.
Alright.
That's fine. Yeah, Mind Warped was on with me on the Early Bird show today. Yeah. He's an interesting guy and working on building a rocket, and can't wait to see where he's going with that.
Yeah, I mean, he also seems like he knows what he's doing, which is obviously something, you know, which is good. Let me just bring in, there we go. Let's just add, there we go. So I'm just calling the plain truth right now. Hopefully he's around as well. Nathan's just messaged me too. Alright, okay, so I will be premiering a show after you finish. Can you give me an idea? Also, you just had a super chat, oh, did I? Right, okay, so 23. So Nathan, if you're listening, I'm going to be rounding up here about 12:30. So, no, actually, 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. So I'll post that now, 1 a.m. Right, right, so now that's sorted out. Yeah, Owen, today we've just been talking about the court. Yeah. Oh, Adam looks like he wants to join as well, so let's bring in Adam as well. Oh. Hello. Bring in Adam.
That's not Adam you added.
I don't. Adam was just calling me then.
Oh, right.
So let's see if he picks up. Anyway, so yeah, so going back to what I was saying.
Hello, boys.
Hi, Adam. You all right there?
Right. Yeah, I don't need to pick Owen's brains. What's going on? I was watching that. Right. Well, cool. Can you explain it a bit further, Owen? What's going off?
Me?
Yeah. Well, what's he doing?
The rocket guy, Mind Warp.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I literally just started watching this.
That's not what he was ringing about. I saw you ring in.
Right. Well,
I'm the same, so I'm going to have to look into that then.
I haven't watched the video yet, but he told me he was basically step-by-step approaching building a rocket, kind of from the foundation up as fireworks rockets. Yeah, there's all kinds of stages. I don't know how extensive he's gone into it. He talked some about it on the Early Bird show today. So if you want to get an intro, then watch that again. Part
Nice.
where he called it.
What purpose being, Owen? What's the purpose of building?
Well, yeah, well, he wanted to kind of get to that stage where he would build a big enough and good enough rocket to go really up high and figure out what's up there. Yeah.
Okay, so it is literally just rocket testing. There's no other purpose to it. I'll take that as a yes.
What he's doing right now?
Yeah, there's no other methodology applied to it. It's literally just how high can I build a rocket, and then I'll figure out how I can strap something to it later.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not decrying it, Randy. I was literally trying to figure out the fundamentals of what he's trying to do, and he is literally just starting with the basics of let's figure out the basics of rocketry, and then build my own rather than buy shit. Do you know what I mean? Figure out how I can do this myself, which is awesome.
Yeah, grassroots rocket scientist.
Yeah, what I mean by that is there's no other pretense to what he's doing. That's the purpose of what he's doing.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
That's a question, not a statement, Owen.
Oh. I agree? That was a joke.
Yeah.
So anyway, boys, Adam, you saw before. You obviously watched it from the chat, but you saw my little. You know, it wasn't a dig. It was just trying to bait John in to come and do this. But you know, I also understand what you were talking to me before about his channel and stuff, and he's preoccupied with that. So maybe it'll be a bit light-hearted, but maybe down the line, do you think it'll happen? I mean, you came up with a few suggestions.
I think you used the word bait in the correct manner, mate. Are you going to catch a QE fish by dangling the prospect of debating George? I don't think you'll catch that fish.
I like the way that you said that. Debating George.
It's not a debate, is it? George just rambles on in his own incoherent way from one topic to another, never answering a question. So I don't think that would be sufficient bait. But I suggested to you that if you did want QE to respond to George, then you've got to have a decent bait, haven't you? You've got to have something that. And the only thing that I would suggest, I know if you put in a document or a succinct points to answer and just laid it in front of him, he might tell you to fuck off straight away. All right, but let him sit on that for a day or so, and he'll put a coherent response to it. You know that. But if all you come to him is with, like what you would get in a debate, is what we've seen here is George's ramblings. Frankly, there isn't an honest response to anything. It's not a debate. It's a filibuster of nonsense that loosely relates to the topic in hand, but doesn't ever address the point that's been presented to him. But it's filled out with a lot of detail that is correct. I wouldn't dispute that, but I would question its relevancy to the question that was ever asked. And with that in mind, I don't blame John for just thinking, why would I bother? Why would I bother to talk to George? I understand what he's saying, and in much better detail, and I could probably put it in a more coherent way. But that's never what's been asked of George. So, no, I don't blame John. I wouldn't take that bait, because what's in it for John? You know, just listening, wasting 40 minutes of your time after you've asked the question, and he rambles on in an incoherent way and vaguely talks about a space force field, but then denies it later. You know, what's the purpose of that? So, I think if you're going to get it, then maybe George, whoever's challenging QE, shouldn't have the audacity to suggest that they warrant an open debate and think that John's going to jump to that. But maybe they could put something together for John to respond to, and maybe if it's of at least a coherent sense and a non-contradictory manner, then you might get something. But frankly, and I don't mean this in an insulting way to George, but the stuff I've listened to is, I say, correct in detail, but in no way coherent response to any points put to him. And I think that's why you won't get a response from QE on this, because that's what he's not prepared to do, is just shuffle bollocks, mate.
Yeah, I think, as we all do, that the housekeeping questions, the Flat Earth housekeeping questions, are very tight. But there's a lot of noise coming from the Globers that they have issues with it. So, I want to hear that. That's the thing, and maybe, like you say, maybe a different format where we can sort of get their issues, what their issues are about these housekeeping questions. Written down like you suggested.
Right, like treat them like stubborn teenagers, and as parents try to trick them into cleaning up their rooms, right? That's kind of what you're aiming at?
Wait, if I'm these are facts we're trying to deal with. Now, I can only deal with it in my world, and if I'm dealing with somebody's medical history, then the facts are important. If I want to interfere and affect a change to other people's perception of that medical history, I can't do it by ranting and raving, and I certainly can't affect other people's readings of it by verbally. What I have to do is put it down in a coherent way so that it's understandable what my interpretation and my input is. Okay, and it's then documented. That then allows another professional or somebody that has a level of input that is relevant to then add to that. And I think that's kind of where we're getting, because, you know, these debates are good, but they are, unfortunately, as I use the word earlier, filibustered with superfluous nonsense that in some way for me, I can only assume from the ego of the presenter, is presented in such a way as to think that this filibustering is in some way empowering what they're saying, or they think they're so clever that by doing this, they're much cleverer than the rest of the audience they're presenting it to, and they'll wow them with their detail. And it's quite frankly patronizing, and from my point of view, when I listen to it, undermines any point they're trying to make. It's like, you know, we all can all listen to the rumpus, and it's just nonsense. And I think there has to be a way, Randy, and hopefully you can, you know, with the format you're putting together, and, you know, we've seen the input from the ballers as well, they're taking it on board. There has to be a way that the actual real detail of the points we're discussing can be fine-tuned a bit further. And for me, the only way to do that is in text, and then discuss your finer points of the text if we want to get into conversation. But for me, the continuation can't carry on, because it's just full of absolute waffling nonsense that isn't addressing the point. And I say that as a frustrated flat earther, and I've listened on your channel, Ranty, to Toady, and he appears to be a sort of person that's maybe a little frustrated in himself, in that similar sort of thing that actually was now, and we're as bad because we can bat away them with shit that deflects the argument and fine-tuning the argument with, and it requires them to take a step forward, like with a lot of Nathan. You talk about the housekeeping questions. It requires them to take a step of intellectual honesty forwards, past the point, and to recognise that actually these are real questions that we can't bat away, that aren't substantiable, and that we should be answering. And that's why we as flat earthers are here. And if you want to engage with us, let's engage, but let's move past that point of making shit up from MSU. You know what I mean? That they seem to come out with, because I've got no desire to deal with that. And again, it comes back to John. I don't think he has, and I think that's where we're at. And you are, Randy. That's what your plea was at the beginning. You don't want to spend years here, mate. Well, we're going to spend years here if we engage with ballers, and we think that a baller's opinion, because they're a baller, helps us progress. It only helps us progress if they still think it's round, that we can move intellectually and agree on a point that's bloody obvious. Like there is no molten iron core that we can prove, even if we do presuppose a spherical Earth. And if we can't engage with a person like that, then the debates aren't going to go anywhere for the betterment of anybody. Because, you know, hand on heart, I don't know what the honest outcome is. We're all here because of these paradigms. I'll stop rambling.
Oh, you make good points, but I think that besides the arguments that have been around for a while now, mostly being regurgitated and repackaged and shown from every conceivable angle now, I think that most of the struggle now is psychological and basically figuring out the exact patterns of deviation and obfuscation that the ballers use, because it is so incredibly persistent and predictable. It is so persistent that we can almost now, to a point, act out exactly copied what a baller is gonna say, even the way they're gonna say it by now. They've become that predictable and that repetitive. So it is for us now to master this and leave them no corner to evade to, because they can no longer imagine anything that we wouldn't be able to predict. And then there can be other ballers that'll notice that there literally is no other way, and they'll just step away from that circle of complete craziness that's going down the drain, obviously, spouting nonsense everywhere, and perhaps form a new tier of ballers that is willing to kind of move on and be a little bit more honest. But that takes time. So,
Well,
that's my opinion.
do you not think that understanding their argument from them and then addressing that is a way forward?
Well, it would if they would actually understand their argument. And they usually end up not doing that. So, that's one of the big problems. It's all the double think solutions they have, the conflicting answers that they keep on conflictingly answering without bridging the gap. And they go crazy as they try. And they're never gonna fix that. They just won't. And if they attempt to, the others will just drag them down like frogs in a pot or crabs in a pot, whatever. Just gonna drag him down back into the confliction again.
Well, it's quite funny actually. Are you still there, Adam? Yeah, you're still there. So George is in the chat and he says, "Who's Adam Meakin? Never heard of him before." He wants to join as well.
Oh, good. Oh, goody.
Would you be happy to have a chat with him? Earth to Adam.
Are you asking me?
Oh, I was muted, weren't I?
Yeah, you were.
So, George, who's Adam? I'm the bloke that made you scratch your head and not give me a coherent answer, mate, when I asked you, with regards to elastic collision of gas particles, okay, whether or not, if the elastic collision resulted in a perpendicular movement of the two molecules, one straight up and one straight down, basically, would one be subject to an increased force, i.e. therefore would have an increased acceleration due to that elastic collision? Would the other be subject to a downward acceleration applied to that elastic collision, which would of course defy gas law? I'm the bloke that asked you that before you scratched your head, and then proceeded to do exactly what I just described, my friend, which is not address the point at hand and provide a load of detail that skirted around the subject but didn't address the issue.
Do you agree with Tony when he says that all the globe has is mathematics?
No, not necessarily, no. I think maths is very useful. I think maths is, for us flat earthers, particularly useful if you bother to go into the detail of highlighting the contradictions, the paradigms, as I, probably incorrectly used the word earlier. But no, I don't think. I think maths is something we all have. Maths is a language, a way of describing the world in very basic terms, very fundamental terms that don't, as we as humans, ascribe to our full experience. But within certain things, if we describe them properly mathematically, they're very useful at predicting things. But correct description and prediction doesn't mean we understand it. But maths is there for us all, not just ballers or flat earthers. It's something, for me, I'm a flat earther, mate. Yeah. And there isn't anything I fall back on more. Why do you guys ring me? So Adam, look at this. Well, that's what confirms the ball every time for me. Confirms against the ball.
Oops.
Sorry about
Freudian slip.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But do you get me? That's the thing that every time I go back, we go back to the point. That's naughty. That's bad, isn't it? That's so. Yeah.
Adam, have you been drinking tonight, mate?
Well, I drink most nights, mate, to be
You drank a lot on Saturday night, I have to say.
That's the shit out of you, son. You didn't get on that dance floor, did you?
Yes, I did.
I did.
Hello, what ho?
Hey, Blades
Trav.
Ruth.
Help me! I've turned into a baller whilst trying to.
Actually, you were dancing. You was quite the
Settle down, fella.
You were quite the dancer, actually, if I remember rightly.
Mate, there's a rumour that Gary's got a video. Gary Ever has got a video of me.
Really?
Freaking out. Yeah. So fun. I look forward to seeing it.
Man.
That was sweet, mate. There were some sharp moves. You should learn. You shouldn't look at it and laugh. You should look at it and learn.
I need to see the video back. It probably looked good. It probably looked good from my perspective because I was quite wasted. So.
It was a good
I don't
night,
think that's
wasn't it?
recorded though.
Hey, were you upset at no eggs, Randy, for breakfast?
No. Well, yeah, I was, but I got a coffee in the morning, so that was good.
Right, I was sharing a room right with Dolly.
No,
Dolly Daydreams.
Me and Tony slept in.
I know where you ended up.
Roxanne's.
I know where you ended up.
Yeah, we slept next door, me and Tony.
I heard about you. I remember Roxanne telling me you were all chatting there like fucking school kids, chatting away, and they're all talking, and then seconds later, after asking Randy a question, there was suddenly this noise.
Yeah.
And Roxanne said, Randy, and you were gone, mate, apparently. So, yeah.
That's right. That's right. That's right. After a good drink, good snore, sorts everyone out.
I didn't get to say goodbye, mate, because I couldn't get out of bed. So I don't know how you got up for breakfast. But fair play, and yeah, it was a good weekend, mate.
So you were saying you were sleeping with Roxanne's dad?
Mm.
Okay.
No, Dolly's dad.
Dolly's
David.
dad. Right, okay.
Yeah. So he got up. Right, I'm there laying pissed off. The first morning, right, there's only me and him in the room, 3, 4 of the beds. And the first morning he's got, just being polite and that, terrible breakfast. The egg was fucking shocking. Next morning I'm completely, comatose. Oh, actually I was probably more pissed than the night before, but he's actually purposely woke me up to go, it weren't just bad eggs today. No eggs at breakfast. What kind of breakfast do you call this, right, when there's no eggs? And as you can tell, that was probably the only bad word I heard against the conference. State of the breakfast.
Yeah. And it was like a military camp, wasn't it? It wasn't great.
It was Christian school, mate. It was one of those, Christian camps. So it was obviously funded by churches, and it was because it was fucking miles from nowhere, weren't it? It was miles out of the way. But it was one of those. I remember going to them as a kid. Things that turned me off from the church were Christian camps where it feels a bit like school, and you're sent away because your parents get a break. Do you know what I mean? And it was one of those, mate. Everything else, the acoustics in the room were decent. I mean, people could actually hear some of my stream, which was a bonus. The facilities, free tea and coffee, everything else was absolutely brilliant, but there was no booze on site. And we had to walk a mile and a half, didn't we, to the golf club. But other than that, which is only selfish, from a pisshead's point of view, I thought it was excellently done. I was saying to somebody today, Randy, it weren't as good as last year, but nothing's ever going to be as good as the first ever Flat Earth conference. Do you know what I mean? It's always going to feel different. And it was very different. The setting was very different, and the interaction was different. But was it worse, better? I wouldn't say it was any different. It was just a different experience. But yeah, it was good. Right, mate. I loved it, and I got to see you again, mate.
Indeed. It was worth it going for that, eh?
Well, if nothing else, eh? We had a cuddle.
Travis, are you there? Changing the subject.
Hello, what ho?
Hello, what? So how's things with you, Travis? We haven't spoke for a while.
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Just out driving right now.
Did you hear the start of the show? Do you think... So go on.
I caught little bits and pieces. I was working on footage, and so I wasn't listening completely with both ears. But, I mean, if you're talking about the quantum eraser thing, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything particular you want me to say?
No, just your opinion. If you think he should defend the housekeeping questions against George, basically.
You know, those are two different ends of the spectrum, in my opinion. I put in the chat, so it's nothing that I haven't made public. I have nothing but disdain and contempt for John. I really don't appreciate him as a person. But I think that he knows his stuff. I don't think he's a slouch. And so I really don't care what he does. And then the opposite side of the spectrum is George. I really have no interest in listening to him say anything whatsoever. And whether or not he's able to hold his own against Quantum Eraser, I don't think he would be able to. I really don't. But like I said, that would be something that I would have to be paid to do to watch it.
Right. Okay. And you, Arwen, what would you say?
Well, I'd say that at this point it would just be a giant ad-hom fest pretty quickly. I haven't seen John really debate at all so far.
Yeah, and if he did, I would hold him to the standard of a formal, strict debate, with none of his crayon muncher crap. I mean, nothing. Just argue, you know, just present your arguments and evaluate the other side and leave it at that. I just
can't get the crayon muncher out of the John.
I don't think he can. That's his shtick. I mean, you know, he just drips and oozes with he's so full of himself because he thinks he's so clever and witty, and he just loves to hear himself say crayon muncher and window licker. You know.
Don't forget clown,
anyway,
pretender clown.
That too. But I'm strongly biased if you haven't been able to tell.
I think I would. I think I spoke on QE's channel and addressed said issue, and I think, whilst I'm not excusing a demeanour that I wouldn't be prepared to, you know, wouldn't be prepared to portray myself, because I don't display myself like that. I try to address arguments as Adam, you know. But I think maybe you recognise that in your comment as well, Travis, or at least I recognised it in there, that for me it really isn't about the delivery, it's about the content. And maybe I'm privileged a little bit to have had some more detailed one-to-one chats with John, but for me the detail's there, and that doesn't mean I agree with him on everything, but it does mean that with regards to the main debates in topic, I'm 100% behind him. You know, there isn't any variance in our opinion, and I think a lot of what we're seeing, and this is not to excuse, because like I said, that's not how I would behave or retort to anything that's put to me, but I'm intelligent enough, and I think what you highlighted and what you said, Travis, agrees the same, that I'm able to pick the bones out of anybody's particular presentation style, and for me, I don't therefore feel the need to critique it. Now that in some cases, maybe particularly for people need to address it because it's particularly exuberant in some way or another, or it doesn't ring with them, or as Travis said, you know, just doesn't sit with you as a person. How somebody talks to you.
Yeah, the one thing
This-
I will say, just real quick, I think that if we found a bona fide PhD, somebody who had tenure and who was interested in a serious debate and challenged John, and John stepped up, I think that we would see a different side of John. I don't think that he would treat someone coming in from a respectable university the same as a YouTuber. I just don't. I think that his demeanor would change. You know what I mean?
That's unfair to anyone, because that's an academic challenge, and you're saying that academically, if I was to take a specialist in any one field, somebody who has a PhD in any one field, and doctorates are hard enough to get to specialise within. So to get to a PhD status of specialisation and take somebody apart, if you're going to discuss the nuances, then I think most people within the nuances would win with the specialist. But Travis, we're not there, mate. We're not at that point. We're not at the nuances. We're actually at the fundamentals. And as what's been highlighted by QE is that actually the fundamentals and the continuance point is fantasy.
Well, let me say this, Adam. Maybe I was misunderstood, or I wasn't. Obviously I wasn't clear enough. What I mean to say is that I don't think that we would hear John engage in calling the PhD a crayon muncher. I think that would be the way that he would change his approach. All of his content, I would say, I don't think his content would change. I just don't think that he would call those names and engage in that kind of rhetoric with that caliber of a
But do you mean in a face-to-face meeting or over the internet? Because I think that over the internet he would probably just do it just the same.
Okay. Well, we can go back and forth in terms of this.
You know what?
I was thinking in terms of even the John and Dr. Billy Joe Bob, if they were on Ranty's show, I don't think that we would see the same rhetoric.
Can I respectfully say, guys, I love Zach Zabala, and we're on Iron Realm, and I would know nothing more than him to be as gobby as he is with us lot and cheeky and himself. Yeah, but that's not him. That's who he is, and that's how he comes out. And it's not for me to ask him to change who he is. And it's not for me to, if I'm being honest with myself when I evaluate everything I am for, to give a flying fuck about the presentation of the information. When I'm being honest with myself, I take the information that's presented. Whether it's with a load of F's and Jeffs, or whether it's calmly and smoothly presented. At the end of the night, when I'm thinking through stuff, I evaluate the data, not the orator. Sorry, did you get me? And whilst our points may be allowed to be subterfuged by ball earthers and flat earthers alike with regards to John's demeanour, I don't think it's relevant. Yes, you may think of, what an arrogant cunt he is sometimes. And I agree, because I've had my beefs with him, yeah? But I don't care, okay? What I care about is whether or not he's talking shit or not. And 99% of the time, I end up siding with him. So that's what matters to me. Not the fucking celebrity bollocks. Because sooner or later, if we can't do him on this presentation style, we'll start calling him a fucking transsexual, yeah, and have a go at him like that. You get me? And that's not right. Let's stick to facts and deal with facts, not styles, because otherwise we demonize the information, and we're only here for that, guys. Not fucking. It's not EastEnders or Corey or what.
Well, in my personal opinion, a lot of his arguments are great. His debating skills are almost non-existent, however. So I just see him as a viable source for quality data. But that doesn't mean that that viable source is going to hand that quality data exactly the way I want it. So that's how I see it.
He's
And
like that grumpy old uncle, Arwen.
yeah, exactly.
Isn't he? He's like your grumpy old uncle that actually...
Really annoying, and then one day you find out it doesn't work to attack them. You just gotta entertain them a little to get something.
I've tried not to mitigate for John, but in my personal interactions with him, yeah, and they're very different to what people hear on Nathan's show or any other show. Okay, the level of tolerance is very different. Okay, and they're very different things in terms of putting somebody on air and asking them to listen to a load of techno babble. Okay, which is supposed to contextualize something to mean something it doesn't. And for all of the critiques of John I've ever heard, whether it's out of context, quotes, etc., I've never heard really a proper dissemination and breakdown of his argument to an undoing. I didn't come tonight to have a natter about John, but you know, when people have a moan, like I say, I'm not here for fucking personalities. So when people moan about personalities, shove it up your arse. I'm not bothered, you know. But in terms of if somebody's talking shit or not talking shit, then call it out. And that's what I say to you, Randy. I'm going to hand it back. I'm going to stop rambling in my pissed up manner, which I thank you for. I think what you've made, mate, gives us the opportunity to create that sort of format where we have to actually back up in a more legal way in your court everything we're saying. And whether that means everything we're going to say is pre-approved and validated or whatever, the debate needs to move on from what's going off right now for me, which is just waffle and filling and an ability to sound all X, Y, Z to try and substantiate a point, but never substantiating it with truth. And that's why we all are in these forums. We're seeking truth.
I might point out to you that the reason why one cannot break down quantum erasers' arguments.
Oh, George, before you
no, not just a minute.
George, before you rudely interrupt, let me just finish my point, you rude old man. That was really bad manners, mate. Yeah? And totally,
okay, go ahead, finish your point.
No, George, I'm talking, mate. So let me finish my point. And as you heard me, maybe 2 or 3 sentences before, I preluded that by saying a little handover to Ranty. So that was the clue for anyone with a little bit of sensibility and how any kind of public forum works. I'd already given the cue that I was about to do that. So shush your bush just for a minute. Okay.
Get to your point.
And thank you very much.
This is not going to help. This is not going to help. It doesn't help when you do that with Nathan. It doesn't help when you do that with Adam. Why don't you just stop doing it, because it never helps.
I'm good, Arwen.
Just let him finish his point.
Adam, you're ace.
Okay, so most fundamentally, George, thank you for exemplifying my point. Thank you, Ranty. Over to you, man.
No, I was going to say here, Ranty, is that the reason why people can't break down, the reason why that one never breaks down quantum erasers' arguments is one's never ever given a chance. You try to go on Nathan or you show, and there is immediate
talk for these few moments, and then hand it to Ranty. I don't know.
Okay, so let me.
Old man rambling.
Adam, you're so bad.
Let me introduce.
What form is that?
Right, so George, I know you handed over. Sorry, George, Adam. There, you handed over to me. So thank you very much. So we are joined by George Netanyahu, who has come in to defend himself apparently because he feels in some way slighted or something. I don't know what's gone on that we've said that's too bad. But anyway, he's joined, and I think he wants to address some of the issues with this quantum eraser. So let's see what's happening. George, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Randy. Thanks.
Okay.
No, I was going to answer Adam's accusation that nobody's been able to break down quantum eraser's arguments. The reason for that is if you try to go on Nathan's show, you're never given a chance to complete a point or even talk about the points being raised, because you get muted or you get shouted over and you can't get anywhere. There was one time I went on there to discuss Coriolis forces, and that with quantum eraser.
What?
No, let me finish. To talk about Coriolis forces and Coriolis effect, and I sat and I listened to quantum eraser for 22 minutes without interruption. Quantum eraser was given the first chance to speak. Arwen was on there. I don't know if Arwen remembers. Riley was on there. And after Quantum Eraser finished his monologue for 22 minutes, I began to speak. And within 30 seconds, Arwen interrupted me. Then Riley interrupted me. And it just turned into a shit show where nothing proceeded forward after that point. I was never given a chance to respond. And that is the problem that I have with Nathan's show. And I'm sure Quantum Eraser's show and the Discords and that Betty's are all the same way. And that's why I have issued the challenge to Quantum Eraser to come on Ranty's show. Is I feel that Ranty is probably much more honorable than these other hosts, and Ranty will ensure that the forum here will be fair, that there won't be any muting, there won't be any shout overs, and there won't be any Nathan or anyone else to run interference for Quantum Eraser. All I want to have is a one-on-one discussion, very respectful. We'll go through the housekeeping points that Nathan brings up every day in his show. We'll go through them one by one and have Quantum Eraser tell me how he came to the conclusion that these points are correct, and I will point out to him, and I will respond in kind to show him why his understandings are incorrect. He has a lot of misunderstandings when it comes to physics. He doesn't understand the second law of thermodynamics. And I'd like to, and there's many other points in physics that he just plain gets wrong and doesn't understand. So I'm saying, all right, let's have a discussion without all this drama and interference that's brought to us on Nathan's show. Let's have a level playing field, a level field here, a forum in which we can have a civil, rational discussion.
Okay. Am I good to respond, George?
Go ahead.
So you phoned in to comment about what I said with regards to incoherent responses that technobabble into nonsense and address the point. You phoned in to address that point and then talked about, I don't know, maybe you could summarize. You could keep it down to a sentence or two. I'd appreciate it, because I'm at a little loss as to the initial point, what Ranty said with regards to why you phoned in to address me in some way, if it was to address me, or whether with regards to the monologue I just heard, it's to attack QE.
Massive shout out to JQ for smashing the super chat, a $5 super chat, and his super chat said, yes, but to be fair to George, it's because you're a senile old git. There we go.
Answering questions. I don't know if you listened to Ranty's chit chat last night when Pete was on, and the Mind of God. I sat and very respectfully had a one-on-one discussion with them. There was no shouting. I answered all their questions directly, and I will answer anybody's questions directly, but you have to form a well-crafted question so that we are both on the same page and understand just what it is you're asking. When I was on Ranty's show and you came on and was asking, I had 3 other people asking me things at the same time, and I could not get to everybody because there was people starting to talk over me, you being one of them. Brian was another one. You all wanted a piece of me. You all wanted me to respond to you in kind, and it was difficult to do so when I had 3 people asking the same, or at 3 people at the same time asking me different questions. I was fielding them, and you just kind of went away, and I was not able to get to you. So it's not proper for you to say that I did not answer your questions.
Sorry, George. Was I there last night, George?
I'm not talking about last night. I'm talking about that show several weeks ago when I was talking about reference frames, that you came on and asked me questions at the same time that Brian was there. Brian, in fact, started dominating everything. He wanted to just have my attention solely, and I was trying to answer everybody's questions, but Brian was being very rude and taking over the hangout. So it wasn't possible for me to answer everybody in kind. Now, what I'm asking is in the future is if I can have a one-on-one with Quantum Eraser or anybody else, then we can get to the meat of the problem and have a respectful, informative discussion. But we can't do it when the hangout is filled with people that want to grandstand and dominate the hangout.
Lovely, George. So that was my initial point. So maybe if we can move on from this point, we can agree a point on the conversation and its boundaries. So you phoned in with regards to that, yeah? That was my opinion that you heard me give with regards to how you possibly could, given my outside perspective, which has attracted in the previous conversation your conjecture, which again didn't address the point. That was my outside perspective of how you possibly could achieve your pre-stated goal. I'm not sure how my input is worthy of you coming in to challenge that. It's just my opinion. That's actually not challengeable. It is my opinion that you heard. You've come in to challenge it. You know, I'm not here.
You should preface it that way. You should preface it
there is a point, George. There is a point. So just let me go. I'm not part of some QE conglomerate. I'm Adam Meakin. I'm me. Okay? So you heard my opinion. So that's my opinion. I'd like to hear it. But respectfully, George, you know, with the way you portray yourself and the way you answer stuff, which isn't honest, in my opinion, isn't that of a genuine person, I don't think you are going to get the attention of QE and be able to engage on that sort of format. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Maybe there's another way, because we are all interested in the outcome of this, the truth, that maybe because of your bad presentation, so you can't get his attention. I understand why you want it. But maybe there's a way that you could present your information or your critique of any of his information that could be responded to, that all of us viewers would then be able to digest in a much more compact format. And I think we'd all appreciate that with regards to you, Georgia. A compact format would be very useful.
Well, compact format, one-on-one where there's direct interaction would be a much better way to go. Not submitting written questions that need to be responded to. You need to deal with this in real time and have a real interaction going back and forth so that you can be more efficient in terms of disseminating the information out there. I mean, it just take weeks and weeks trying to do something in a written format or doing videos and video responses. That just won't work. I work much better, and so do many other people. If you can have a real-time one-on-one discussion, we can kill this all in a matter of an hour or two, rather than dragging this thing on for weeks on having questions and answers. And I'd like to see how John does on his feet without his cutty pasties and Nathan to run interference for him. I'd like to see how knowledgeable John really is.
Whoa, mate.
Let me finish. No, you let me finish. Let me finish. I have to listen to you.
Yeah, respect.
You let me
You make
finish.
4 points at the same time every time.
Don't put me in a position where you're asking me to comment.
No,
on
look
how
at
you think I would see
Now look
John.
at. You need to let me have my. You need to let me have my. You let me.
That would be
you need to
unfair
let
of
me
you,
have my
or
say.
irrelevant of you.
Ranty, you need to
put that into
control
any
this
conversation.
drunken.
Hey, Arwen, I
That's
have a question for you.
in
Did you
any
check
way
out that
how you
song
think
that I sent you from
you
the
think I
Lost
should
Boys
see John
soundtrack
behave.
the other
What?
day?
Yeah, this is
This
George.
doesn't work when you.
George,
one
you're
person
bringing up
you-
a point. You do this every time. You bring up a
No,
point.
I'm
Yes, you
responding.
do.
No,
do
the
this
guy
every
just keeps
time.
going on
You
and
bring
on.
up
I'm
a
trying to
point,
respond to
then
it.
you
Arwen.
deflect to another point that's not really that much tied in. Then you deflect that to another point that's completely untied in, and then you deflect that to
Well,
another
how-
point, and then
okay,
we're all lost. And
explain
you
to
do
me-
it every
explain
time.
to me,
And
Arwen,
then
explain to me
when
how these
someone
are
wants
related.
to break in and actually stop it,
Arwen,
you complain that you
Arwen,
can't
is there
finish
a
your
question
point that's
in
not
here?
going anywhere.
Arwen, listen.
Or it's
Well
just
said,
a
Arwen. I
repetition.
think what Arwen just said is absolutely nailed on. I think it was the initial
Arwen,
point
is
I
there a
made.
question
That is
in
the
here?
reason that George
Okay.
phoned in. And I think he's exemplifying in his continuance of his behaviour everything both I've said and now Arwen has confirmed. Carry on, George.
I'm saying, is there a question in here somewhere?
No, can we move on to
There
something
was
else,
a
Randy?
question, George, before you rambled on, weren't there? But Trav, sorry, mate.
No, I didn't hear.
I'm just being a comic relief.
There's enough comedy, mate, in this, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's a lot of comedy, but there's a complete distinct lack of honesty. And I can understand.
Okay, where's the honesty? Where is the dishonesty?
Let me just
No.
Let me
Where,
finish. Then you can
explain
ramble
to me.
on for a while.
You've just made
I'm
a
not
statement
gonna-
that
I'm
there's
not gonna-
dishonesty here. Where's the
I won't
dishonesty?
back
Yeah,
down.
well, he can't explain it if you're going to interrupt him, George. He just said it literally half a second, and then you started interrupted. Okay?
I'm asking, where is the dishonesty?
Well, he was going to explain, wouldn't you think?
Oh, shut up, Arwen. Let him explain.
Hang on, guys, one at a time. But before we get there,
All I was going to finish with, Randy, was, and this is it. We just heard, George, why you won't get anywhere near an honest debate with QE. Listen to yourself, dude. Until you're able to hold an adult conversation that the rest of the people in the room at least know is semi-honest, or at least a little bit misguided, that's not what I'm getting, mate. And therefore, it's the whole point of what I just said before you joined. And I'll leave it there, because it's quite sad, really, George.
Actually, not there, Adam, is what I was explaining.
Just one sec. Just shout out to JQ for smashing the super chat. He's done it twice. Thanks very much. Last one was, there's an elder care facility somewhere for that missing patient. Anyway, George, carry on.
Yeah, I'm saying what is needed is a forum such as Ranty has here, where we are allowed to have a one-on-one discussion without interruptions, without Arwen or without
Yeah, we heard this
Nathan.
already, George.
No, see, again, here we go. I can't speak because of interruptions.
you've already
You
said
people,
this. You've
you
already said
people,
this.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Just be quiet. No, see, you waste time interrupting. I could have finished 30 seconds
No,
ago.
we'd be spending that
you
same
go
time
on and
listening
on
to
and
you say
on.
the same
No,
thing that you were saying before, so it's just still the same amount of time wasted. It's just more fun with me.
You just did the same thing to Adam, so...
George, what specifically do you have, against the housekeeping questions? What's your number one thing that you wanted to bring Quantum Eraser to court for, that you think you could win the argument over?
well, all the housekeeping points, but the ones that are most egregious are the ones having to do with Curie temperature and how magnetic fields behave in ferromagnetic materials that are at or higher than the Curie temperature. They've got that all wrong.
Yeah, but that doesn't prove that the Earth has a molten iron core, though.
Well, we can get to that. First, we dispense.
Yeah, no shit.
Who is that that's being so rude here?
That's Arwin.
Maybe you could get rid of Arwin.
No, I'm not going to
Get
get rid of
rid
it.
of me.
No,
Wow.
no. Anyway, carry on, George. You said.
I mean, you people are. Yeah, you're having these Arwin interrupting. I'm trying to explain. You asked me a question, and here Arwin's being is much ruder than what he's complaining.
Okay, well, let's move on. Respectfully, your point about the metals and how they act when they've gone past the Curie point. Okay, I can accept that. Right? But that still doesn't prove that we have a molten iron core.
I'm saying that's the first part. First, we dispose of the myths and the misunderstandings, and then we submit evidence and the proof that you're looking for to show the proper way in which to analyze the problem and to demonstrate what the true facts are. I'm not going to go through it right now.
But what problem is there? There doesn't seem to be a problem. Just because metal can conduct when it's gone past its Curie point doesn't prove that there's a molten iron core.
I'm saying I'm not going to go through that right now with you, but we can discuss that on a show with, if you want to have Quantum Eraser on or someone else that wants to discuss that issue, then I will come with the material to show you why there is a molten iron core. I'm not prepared at this point in time to talk about it.
Why not?
Because I would have to go into my files and start putting together a presentation of evidence.
No, you wouldn't. Not really. It would just basically be a quick rundown.
No, well, you're going to say, no, the first thing I'm going to get is, where's my citations? Where's my evidence? That's what's going to happen. I can describe it to you. But that's not going to be satisfactory.
Yeah, just describe it. I mean, if you've got citations for it, I think we'll all just say, okay, we can agree that you may have citations for this. But where would your next point be?
Well, the next point would be is you'd look at the seismographs of seismic analysis of the internal workings and the internal structure of the Earth, which we have volumes of data from gas and oil exploration, and also for just basic research from geophysical determination and the geophysical sciences to determine what the internal structure of the Earth looks like. There's volumes of data that shows us the density profile and the temperature profile of the interior of the Earth, and from that we can see what the structure of the Earth is as we get in towards the central portion or the core of the Earth.
Okay, so how deep do we have to dig to get to the core of the Earth?
Well, depends upon what you mean by the core. There's the solid core, and then outside the solid core, there's a molten core. But you're talking thousands of miles.
And how far have we?
From the surface.
And how far have we dug down from the surface up to now?
Well, the Russians went down about 8 miles.
Okay, so from an 8-mile deep hole, you think that data that you've collected...
No, you don't have to dig to the center of the core to know what it is. Just
No,
like...
he's talking about echolocation. Hey, I'm actually supporting you,
I'm having a
dumbass.
discussion with
I'm actually
Rand.
supporting you. Okay, he's talking about echolocation, that kind of thing.
I don't need your support. I don't need anyone to help
I'm
me
going to give
with
it
this.
anyway.
Ranty, if you go
Could I just interject for a second?
No, you cannot.
Literally just to
No, be quiet. You cannot.
Yeah, I have a question.
Having a
too.
discussion
I have
with
a- I have
Ranty.
a question.
One at a
It
time.
alludes to-
Do you want me to answer this, Ranty, or do you not?
Yeah,
you want me to answer this?
Hold it. Yeah.
No, I don't get to interject, so these guys don't get to interject.
Okay, so
No, I was just asking which place I
Let me
was.
finish.
Was Adam before me, or was
that's
Adam
fine.
after me?
Will you let me finish, Ranty?
George, I will.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Okay,
Do
yes,
I
I
get
will.
a chance
Yeah.
to answer
George.
the question?
You're all on mute now, so nobody can hear you. Nobody can hear you. Listen, let me just say. Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, or okay.
Cool,
mute right
mate.
now.
But can I just pull it back?
Don't tell me you're going to be on mute. Just get on mute so I can answer.
Okay,
Randy,
so-
number one, we
Okay.
don't.
George,
Randy,
I'm trying to be polite. And
no, you're not trying to be polite. Just put
I
yourself
am,
on mute
genuinely.
and I'll answer the
But
question.
you're
Put
not.
yourself
Right.
on mute, please.
You're not
Put
at
yourself
least
on
letting
mute.
Adam,
Answer
You're
the
not.
question.
if you
You're
can-
not at least.
Adam,
Guys,
I'm
go
on,
on mute already.
George.
He's not gonna shut up anyway.
George.
I'm on mute, Adam. You should go on mute, Adam. I'm on
I
mute.
can't go on mute until I've said my point.
Marwin, are
Right.
you on mute?
I'll
It's
tell
a
you what.
reasonable point.
Say your point, Adam, and then I'll let George carry on. Go on.
Thank you. George, if all we could do is to come back to this point with regards to what we can extrapolate, given that we've only dug down 8 miles afterwards, I'd just like to expand on that point. But please carry on. I just would like to be able to reference back to this point later on after you've continued. Thank you.
All right, Randy.
Okay, carry on, George. So
No. Okay, all right, let me carry on. Now, suppose there's something going on the internal workings of your body. We have ultrasound, we have MRIs, we have ways of sounding the internal organs of your body without having to cut into your body to know what's going on. So if you have an internal ache to your body, you want to go to a doctor and have them cut you open each time you have a pain to find out what's going on inside there, or would you like him to use x-rays to see if you have a broken bone? Do you expect every time that you might have a broken bone in your leg that you go to a surgeon, have them rip open your leg and say, oh yeah, I can see, yeah, there's a broken bone there? Or would it be a little easier just to take an x-ray and see indirectly that there is a broken bone? That's exactly what we do with the internal workings of the internal structure of the earth. We don't need to dig a hole and do surgery on the internal structure of the earth to ascertain what the nature of the internal structure of the earth is. We can use the equivalent of an x-ray machine or an ultrasound by seismic sounding from the surface of the earth and getting the reflected waves back and do a Fourier transform analysis on it and know exactly what the internal structures are.
George, could I ask? George,
I want to
can I
respond
please
to
ask
this.
you?
I would like to respond to this.
Oh,
No.
just one
Please, it's
second.
very short.
Randy,
Come on,
who's
I
going
haven't
first?
spoken. I've barely spoken.
Wait, hey, can I go before you, Adam?
Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
Come on.
No, I'm just teasing.
No, because I love you.
For fuck's sake.
But genuinely, that's mate. If you can show me what the return image is for granite at 15, 20, and 30 miles, and able to confirm that, then seismology has some validation within science. However, as you previously stated, the furthest we've been, and therefore the furthest we can confirm with any form of science, is, what was it, 8?
8 miles.
8. That'll do for me, Cocker. So anything outside of 8 is nonsense. George, carry on.
Right, I would like to add something to that, to George's specific example, okay? Right, so when you use scans to scan somebody's leg, you know how that works so well? Because people have actually got to study the internal structure of the leg up close and actually confirm many of these things and then be able to perfectly cross-reference it, okay? Nobody's actually done that to the internals of the earth. So it's just a guesstimation work, just trying to figure out what is the most likely based on whatever presuppositions. And that's what you're really doing. There's no actual confirmation.
Actually, I think the equivalent, the equivalent there with regards to the Earth, actually, is actually quite a fundamental point Arwen raises there, is if you think about 8 miles, or whatever that is in kilometres, and the 6,700 from there to the centre of the presupposed ball Earth. What Alwyn is talking about is sending scans through the epidermis of the skin, and based on the feedback through the epidermis of the skin, being able to tell you what translational wave effect that has with regards to muscle tissue and then bone tissue, and how that affects, based of course in their model on the presupposition that there is muscle and bone in the way, where of course there's no way of confirming that. But as Alwyn says, at least with the example that George gave, everything that supported the example was actually there in reality to be examined after the scans have been commenced. So, you know, George, everything you've said and used to support has no foundational basis behind it. It's all based on belief, man.
No, it's not based on belief. There's actually foundational foundation evidence and foundation confirmation for this. You don't have to go all the way down into miles of the earth, hundreds of miles, to know that there's granite there or there's basalt or whatever. We can, from the core samples that we have taken through gas and oil exploration and knowing the nature through doing each one of these types of materials have a specific signature. When you do a Fourier transform, FFT, fast Fourier transform analysis, you get the fingerprint, you get the signatures of these types of rocks and the densities that they have, and we know that what types of materials we have from all these core samples, what the various types of materials are, from volcanic formations, sediment, compressions, whatever. We don't have to go and dig down to confirm everything that we see. We can do that by seismic sounding mountains and digging into mountains, knowing, going into caverns and looking. You don't have to confirm everything that you ever do. You can easily extrapolate, knowing the signatures. For example, it's the same sort of thing with spectroscopy. Is every element has a certain signature associated with it, and we can tell what elements are in various stars just by doing the experiments in the lab to know what types of signatures various elements have. And the same thing with minerals. We know the signatures that they have, so when we get those signatures back from the center of the earth or deep down thousands of miles, we know what's down there.
Okay, can I intersect?
The fact that we have records.
Right. I want to intersect. So I've just brought up the Kohler super deep borehole, and what's interesting is in the research there's a paragraph there that I'm just going to read out. To scientists, one of the most fascinating findings to emerge from the well is that no transition from granite to basalt was found at a depth of about 7 kilometers, where the velocity of seismic waves has a discontinuity. Instead, the change in the seismic wave velocity is caused by a metamorphic transition in the granite rock. In addition, the rock at the depth had been thoroughly fractured and was saturated with water, which was surprising. This water, unlike surface water, must have come from deep crust minerals and had been unable to reach the surface because of a layer of impenetrable rock. Now, what this is saying is that they had no idea what they were digging down into. In fact, everything they expected to find when they started to drill didn't happen. Nothing came out what they expected to find, even with their pre-research using seismology to try and determine what the rocks and the things to find on the dig down. When they actually came and brought the samples up, they found it was nothing what they expected.
Right.
Yes,
their predictions
the reason
failed.
for some of that,
their
Randy,
predictions
is that,
and thus their model failed. just
Well,
pointing out.
No, the reason for some Ranty.
George,
Let me answer this. The reason for this, Ranty, is the fact that talking about the resolution of the instrumentation and the ability to resolve minute changes. Now, what we're looking at with the center of the
George can't let this one through.
We're looking at a very large structure.
But he's going to miss the point and
the
move
thing
on
is,
to another point.
is with large structures, we know what's going on with a large structure. It's just like with the ultrasound in your body, you can ultrasound that there's an organ there, but you're not going to necessarily see every little blood vessel or every little aberration in the muscle tissue, but you can see the large structure of the material. But you're not going to see the finer structure that
one at a time.
Not going to see the
One at a time.
Can we come back to your point, then, man?
Yes, one at a time. Yes, come back to my point.
Can we come back to your point?
Go ahead, Adam.
George has worked very, very hard.
Are you going to allow me to answer your question, Ranty? You were putting the question to me, Ranty. I will answer it.
I'll leave it with you.
But I'm not going to
come back to your borehole point.
You know,
I'll let you tell me when to speak.
Why don't we wait until Adam sobers up and we can talk?
I'll give you 1 minute here, George. If you want to respond, you've got 1 minute. Then I'll listen to what Adam has to say.
Okay, I'm saying, in any sort of instrumentation, you have a limitation as to how much you can resolve. You're talking about little changes and nuances that a seismic sounding isn't going to pick up. It's just like taking ultrasound of the body. You can see the organ there, but you're not necessarily going to see every little blood vessel or every little aberration in the tissue. You can see the gross structure of the organ or the material that you're looking at. Same thing with the seismic soundings of the earth. You pick up the larger structures like the core. It's a huge structure. You're talking, hundreds of miles versus trying to find something in a borehole
30 seconds.
Where you're looking at structures that change on the order of feet. You're not going to pick that up with the seismic soundings. The resolution of the instrumentation is not that great, but you can see the overall gross structure, and that's what we're interested in, and that's what you're interested in talking about the core.
Go ahead, Adam.
Okay, so I'll refer it back to the point that you stated, Ranty, and a fact I think stated on Wikipedia there, which was to point out, I think in the most fundamental way, that none of the extrapolated data based on the previous seismographs of what would be under there was actually there when they took the cores and found it in that exceptionally very limited 8-mile borehole. We are talking about 6,731 kilometers down there. As you keep alluding back to with your scans, George, of something that Arwen said, we can look up, down, around, inside, take it apart, cut it up, have a bloody good look at it and analyze whether our readings and therefore fine tune how we extrapolate that data, based on the actual reality that we can confirm, with regards to your taking apart tissue with analysis. Yes, there may be, as you tried to subterfuge with, some incoherence with different types of scanning imagery with regards to the level of detail they can provide, but all of them require fine-tuning by the reality of confirming it with reality, George. And what you're unfortunately trying to support, and what Ranty's demonstrated to you there, is all of this presupposition is based upon nothingness. And as I tried to allude earlier, you've used the scanning of a leg, and you're talking about looking at the top layer of the skin, and then you're trying to pretend that your knowledge of scanning and bouncing radio waves back through the top layer of the skin is in some way enabling you to confirm that as it progresses through 1, 10 times, 100 times, 600 times that depth and varying densities of which you've no way of scientifically confirming how those different densities and depths vary with regards to your transmission reception occur, it's absolutely nonsensical, George, that you can defend this position. I'm not saying you should stand there and say it's flat, but for you to try and stand there and say that this in some way confirms anything is pathetic, my friend. Yeah?
Okay, now you have this all wrong. Number one, we don't use radio waves to penetrate the body. I don't know where you came up with that. Is you don't bounce radio waves. No,
George,
finish. I'm responding.
So I'm willing
to respond.
If the first point you say is, I'm sorry, George, I'm coming back.
I'm going to respond. You've had 5 minutes.
Carrying on, Ranty, I'm not having to speak.
Look at,
not having the first line.
Sorry, Ranty, I cannot deal with drunks like this.
So I didn't say that, George.
I wish you well, Ranty. See you on Saturday.
To have any point of interjection.
See you later, George.
You're really going to...
It's unfair, Ranty. That's not fair, mate. I'm trying to have a nice discussion with this guy, and the first point he comes back with is that. That's unfair, mate. You know,
not unfair. You won't let me finish. You won't let me answer, Ranty. You keep interrupting, so have a good day, all.
A misrepresentation of what I just said to you straight away.
No, George, don't leave. Oh, he left.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Honesty is
Oh, guys, before we continue, I kind of wanted to point out that in the middle of the whole debate, let's just call it, he completely changed his entire argument. Before, he actually claimed that through various resonance scans and everything, specific materials could be pointed out to be somewhere at great depths. And then the example of the borehole basically pointed out that it was completely a misjudgment. And then he resorted back to saying, no, we just know the shapes. So he completely changed his entire approach in what geology supposedly reveals. It's just weird. I hope you took notice of that.
Adam, did you feel that he misrepresented you when he said that radio waves penetrate? They use radio waves to penetrate the skin.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, Al obviously stand to be corrected, but I don't think I was that descriptive with regards to the medium the imagery was being, created from. Because there are lots of different ways of creating imagery. Yeah, and the frequency of them dependent on what you're trying to pass it through, how much you're trying to pass it through, and how much rebound you're trying to get. So I think that will be a little bit. I would like to stand to be corrected, but I don't think I said radio waves. I don't know how many imagery of people have them rocking up at a hospital for them to plug in FM 106.8 and send an image through them, that wasn't the point, and that's why I kicked off, mate, because it felt like, as I initially said with George, he doesn't ever address anything you say, and as I called him out there and he's then dropped, that's exactly what was happening. Everything I said with regards to supporting evidence of any image data that you have being validated, he wasn't prepared to address that point. And it was easier to then presuppose an argument that it was going to head down, and he started that out with, Adam said radio imaging. So I said, I'll stand to be corrected, but I don't think I did, because that's very specific, and if I did, it would have been nice for him to have said, yeah, you did say that, and I'd have said, oh, I didn't mean that in what I was saying. It's quite heated, so therefore let's move on from, but the point I was making that I'd love you to address, George, was with regards to the relevance of any image data that you could gather with regards to 6,700 kilometers drop as opposed to 15.
Yeah, I think the whole point of this example was that all their prior research and expectations of what they expected to find didn't match reality, and that was just at 8 miles. So to say that now they can, based on whatever upgraded equipment or something like that, new techniques, they can then extrapolate some data that tells you that the shape of the Earth and what's in the center and how far down and all this stuff, it's just nonsense, because it's never been demonstrated to be proven.
That was the point I'd like to have, I was alluding to, I'd like to have got him to, but that's the reality, isn't it? It's subterfuge to get past that reality that actually everything they're saying can't be confirmed past 8 miles, Yeah,
you've got to take it on faith, you've got to take it on trust.
But as you highlighted there, Andy, actually everything they presupposed up to that 8 miles, based on their seismological data, turned out to be a sack of shit. So, how much faith can you then place in their next set of predictions based on the fact that the fact that their previous predictions told you X and it turned out to be not really near X? So, where's your model? If your model doesn't work within the realms that you can test, and when you expound it past the limits of your testability and predict, and then you go past that and take your predictions and explore where you previously couldn't test, and you test it, and it turns out to be a sack of shit compared to your predictions, then what's your mathematical modelling worth?
Well, I've just had a message from Rumpus, and he says that all the housekeeping questions are trivial. Now, I don't see that they're trivial. In fact, I think they're actually paramount in this entire prove Earth's rotation, prove the radius of Earth. I mean, this is real stuff that you need to sort of get a grips on. It can't be trivial if you believe in the globe. If you can't demonstrate that, it's not trivial. That's your whole argument.
Rumpus wants you to move away from the point that all of the scientific data and everything they tell you about is based upon the equivalence of looking at only your top layer of skin compared to all the way through your leg. That's what Rumpus is trying to distract you from now by making that point with regards to all of the possible outcomes of talking about the housekeeping questions. It's full of shit, just like George is. He doesn't want anybody to focus on a topic.
Travis, do you have anything to add to this?
Shut me up. Bunch of cunts.
What?
No, I think Adam basically addressed the question that I was going to ask, so I think that the confirmation of what's beyond our ability to put our hands on is a pretty important argument.
Arwin? Arwin? You there?
Can I just respond to that point of Travis's?
Of course you
It's
can,
the point that when we can't put our finger on that point, right, and we took a really freaking good guess, right, and we then tested scientifically based on all our mathematics, yeah, I'm holding up my fingers with quotation marks here, yeah, it turned out to be a sack of shit. So based upon testing the medium in which everything we based our assumptions on, the mantle, yeah, how the hell can we have, and everything of that turned out to be wrong, right? How the hell can you then try to extrapolate anything with any validity to it based on no way of testing it, knowing that everything you've tested proves that everything you thought it was wrong? It's bunkum, mate, and it's double speak even in the Wikipedia, but if you listen, it's clear, isn't it?
Yep. Sorry, I was outside for a moment.
So yeah, I'm going to wrap up in 5 minutes. I'm going to get an early night tonight for a change. I was up till 3:30 last night, so I only got 3 hours sleep. So yeah, 5 more minutes, guys. So if there's anything you guys want to plug, if there's any shows you want to plug or anything like that, be my guest. Fire away.
Alright. Flat Earth Early Bird in the morning, every day, 2 o'clock Amsterdam time, 1 o'clock, 1 p.m., sorry, London time. So come and visit the Early Bird show sometime.
Okay. The Plain Truth, I know you're thinking of doing a channel too?
Yeah, I'm thinking of a show where we almost do an after show play-by-play. It's not obviously going to be extensive, but take, for instance, Jose's channel. I think a lot of times there are points that I would love to follow up on and just don't have a chance to. So I'm going to try to break some of those down and just take snippets and address those issues. I'm going to call it From Our Perspective, but it's still going to be on the Plain Truth channel.
Excellent. And Adam, anything to add?
I can only add that I'll hopefully see you all Friday night, 10:30. I have no spare on Iron Realm. Other than that, meet the boys on TFR radio, and that's at 10 o'clock. Tuesdays and Fridays, 10 o'clock in the morning, AM UK time. So join Josh and Walt over there. But yeah, other than that, look forward to seeing you over there on Have No Spare at 10:30 on a Friday. On the new confirmed schedule, Randy.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I think Nathan's going to go live in about 3 minutes, so that just gives me enough time. Well, not live. He's going to do a
hold
premiere,
on.
I think.
Ranty, I got a question. What's up with the 2 ladies behind you?
There's nothing up with the 2 ladies behind me.
Oh, they look okay to me.
Yeah, they look fine to me as well.
Yeah.
They've still been waiting from last night. I was too tired last night. So anyway.
Was that to print them out, Randy?
Yeah, I'm printing them out. Tomorrow night we have Sleeping Warrior versus Toady. So we'll finally get that debate sorted. So that will be at 11 p.m. BST tomorrow. Flat Earther versus Globe Earther, part 2, carrying on from their last appearance. And then on Thursday we've got a ladies' night. So Thursday we're definitely bringing in Dolly, and we're going to be bringing in Roxanne, and hopefully a few more, maybe Karen B, a few other people as well. So stay tuned for that. So be interesting to get a ladies' night. Do you agree with that, lads?
Yes, totally. I look forward to that. There was something I saw, right, Randy, from the weekend's filming. I got blamed for freaking Dolly out in the corner, and I realised it's you. I watched it on film. It's you while she's pissed up in the corner. So your fault.
I wasn't. No, that was Tony that was sat with her.
No, not sat with her. The filming.
Oh, filming. Yeah. I went around and did a live stream, didn't I? It's weird as well. It cut out when I filmed it. She was wasted as well, wasn't she? Oh,
it was saving it. It was a good night out there. I enjoyed that, and I watched back your bit. Probably the most of that part of the evening as I remember, to be fair. So yeah, it was good fun, mate. It was
good stuff. Right. So I'm going to round up now, guys. I'm just going to. I think Nathan's got. He asked me to tell him a time to do his premiere, so that'll be at in 1 minute from now. So it should be getting ready to start. So thanks everybody for stopping by. Thanks everybody in the chat. We had 160 plus people watching, which was excellent. Anything you want to add there, Travis?
No. Now that I got 1,000 subs, now I have to get 4,000 watch hours. What the? What?
They don't make it easy, do they? Right. Okay, guys. Well, thanks very much for stopping by. Do tune in tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for smashing the super chat. And, yeah, see you all again tomorrow and again on Thursday. as for now, that'll do for now, and see you all in the next one.